Yes, it was been days that again we've had plenty of rain here in the Metroplex, and again I'm thankful that I don't have to water that big lawn that we have at our house. We have an acre, so sometimes that can be it can get a little costly when it gets summertime. So, well, we'll welcome the rain anytime. So again, we're just thankful just to see that God is still in control, that He does His thing. So, again, thankful for those that are coming in, those that are listening. I hope everybody had a blessed day. I'm going to read from the book of Jeremiah, chapter 25, and I'm going to read from book of Jeremiah, chapter 25, verse 4 through, let me go through 6 through 7. Jeremiah, chapter 25, verse 4 through 7. And though the Lord has sent His servant, the prophets, to you again and again, you have not listened or paid any attention. They said, turn now to each of you from your evil ways and your evil practices, and you can stay in the land that Lord gave to you and your ancestors forever and ever. Do not follow other gods to serve and worship them. Do not arouse my anger with your hands and have made with your hands with what your hands have made. Then I will not harm you. But you did not listen to me, declares the Lord, and you have aroused my anger with what your hands have made, and you have brought harm to yourselves. Amen. And I was reading this, and if I had to put a title to it, it's this. My title is for us to listen, and he will listen to what you have to say, that He's ready to listen to what you have to say, but are you willing to listen to Him? Because He's always speaking. And again, and I was reading this week as I was reading, tell my age, the newspaper. A lot of people don't have the newspaper. We still get the newspaper at our house, Dallas Morning News. My wife started, so I started reading the paper more often, because it's back in the days, if you didn't catch it on the news, you read it in the paper. So whatever you missed the night before, you just pick up your paper and you read it. So as I was reading about a gentleman that was traveling the world, and he was talking about him going around just setting up a table and listening to other people's whatever they were going through. He had no, he was going to shame nobody. He wasn't going to judge nobody. He just wanted to listen. He wasn't a counselor. He wasn't getting paid. He was a retired man, and he was just going to travel from Canada, from one part of the Canada to British Columbia, Canada, to the other side. But he said he was just setting up tables, just listening to what people had to say, because a lot of times we don't take time to listen to what others are saying, just like we don't take time to listen to what God is saying. And sometimes we just have to take time to hear what God is saying, because sometimes we're so caught up with what's going around in this world nowadays, and we're missing a lot of things. We're missing so much. And again, it's a time to start listening to what's being said. And I think God has been speaking a lot to a lot of us. And again, the title that I was referring to is "You're Not Alone. He will listen. Will you listen to Him?" And the reason I was reading this, and it was a lot of things came to my mind, and one of the things that came to my mind is when Job was going through, after he lost, and he was mourning the loss of his children and everything that he lost, that was given to him by Christ. I say it was given to him. We don't get everything by just our works. We have to trust and put our faith in God. But what he was going through, if they had done what this man was doing, what I was just mentioning, his name is Mr. Jenkinson, and he's driving, he's going around listening to what people have gone through, grieving. Some that were happy, some that were celebrating things that they were going through. So it's not always has to be something harsh that you're going through. You can be happy and be joyful for the things that's in your life now. Because sometimes, again, we forget that everything that we have is given to us by Christ. And we have to continue to trust what God has given. And sometimes, again, we just don't hear him. He's speaking to us. I was at one of our men's meetings, and I remember when somebody said, one of the men said, you know, what he was saying that, I don't think God's speaking to me. God's speaking to you, you just ain't listening. He's speaking. Sometimes we just ain't hearing what God's got to say because we're not attentive to what's going on. Sometimes we got so much stuff going around us. You know, you got all these new devices that we have our hands on. We're watching social media, and we really don't take time to listen to what God is really telling us. I mean, sometimes we got to take the time to just sit at home in your own time. Everybody has their own closet space, their own space. You know what I mean? And for me, my space is early in the morning at 4:30 in the morning. When ain't nobody up. So can't nobody bother. My wife don't have to sit there, honey, bring me this. She asleep. If she asked me to bring her something, I know she asleep. I said, hey, ain't you talking? That's got to be really God speaking to me there. But, and the way, again, we just don't take that time. We don't take that time to spend that time with him where we can really listen to what he has to say. And as I was reading, and I've read this before, and several times I've read this before, it's when God was testing Abraham. In book of Genesis 22, verse 1, God is testing Abraham because God calls on Abraham. And the first thing Abraham said when he calls on him, he says, here I am. So if you're listening to God, you should be able to respond to him that quick. It's like back in the day when the phone, we running to answer the phone. When God's speaking, we should be able to respond right away. Because, see, God already was giving him a task. He was saying he wanted to see when he asked him the first time, when he tested, he was testing Abraham. And sometimes we all get tested. But we don't want to answer that call because we don't want to step out of our comfort zone. We want to sit there and not try something new for the first time. We don't want to move out on our own, or we don't want to try this new job. But God is testing you sometimes. He wants to see where you're at with him. And see, he tested Abraham. He wanted to see what Abraham's faith was at. So when he asked him that he was going to sacrifice his own son, see, what the thing is that he called on him and he answered. Because he knew what a great God he served. Now, think about it. He's telling him to go sacrifice your son, and he's walking up, and the son asks him, where's the lamb? But see, God was still testing us every time. He's testing us day in and day out. You know, sometimes we just don't want to step out on faith on some things that he has for us. And sometimes we never know what we could have had if we would have just stepped and listened to what God was telling us to do. See, there's a lot of people out here just don't want to, I got ideas. I have this thing about I want to start this new business and stuff, but you don't want to step out because you don't have no faith. Same way, you have to have faith in God. You have to pray about things. Even when I heard one of our members, they moved down here, and I've heard her say that they moved on faith down here. They moved down here because one of their children was very athletic, and she wanted to be a gymnast. So they moved down here on pure faith. So they moved on God. Said, if that's what God wants us to be, if this is what my child wants to do, we're going to support her. And sometimes we have to just acknowledge that. You know what, God? We're going to trust you. We're going to let you lead the way. We're going to let you clear the path for us. We're going to let you open new doors that never been opened. Sometimes you got to kick doors open so you can get in. But sometimes we have to just trust God. See, don't let that discourage you from don't let your faith, someone come discourage you about your faith. So then in Genesis 22:11, happens the angel of the Lord came to Abraham. Abraham, wait. He says, here I am again. See, Abraham knew who God was because he knew recognized that voice. Because he said, here I am. And when he said, don't do that to that boy. See, sometimes when God is speaking, sometimes we got to respond and we got to listen. We got to be attentive when God is speaking. We got to be prepared to know, is that God speaking or that's just somebody else speaking? Because, see, a lot of people try to influence you, do things. That ain't God. Just because he or she decide, you know what, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to start my business, but that business might not be meant for you, though. So there ain't no reason for you to follow someone else. You need to follow God. You don't follow nobody else's, so what someone else has, God has in store for them. Because what God has in store for them is not meant for everybody. Amen. Everybody's things is not the same. So you got to be careful with that. But again, continue to trust in the word and continue to just put your trust and faith in him. Okay, it says if we put our trust and faith in him and not leaning to our own understanding on things, God will provide a path for us. We got to continue to do that. We got to just wholeheartedly just trust God. I mean, and I'm going to say this about listening too, because I know yesterday we was out helping my daughter find a car, and me and my wife was actually helping her since last Friday. And then and Monday, since the holidays, they already had these sales, and they, the dealers always try to get you. And so we came out with a pretty good deal. And we found her a car, and then she didn't have to go because she had the kids at home, and we already knew what she wanted. So we found this car, got the numbers right, got the interest rate down, got everything right. Okay, this is what the payment's going to be. And we came, we agreed on everything. They say, well, you know how they say, well, if we give you this deal today, I say, well, we even signed it. We'll sign off on it. But see, God tested me the next day. We come back, everything we thought going smooth. Paperwork's already, all she's got to do is come and sign, and they get our little check, and we're going to move on. But it's not the way it happened. God was testing again. God was speaking. And when I say that, it's because as we got into the financial part of it, we in the back, and they're giving us all the paperwork, saying this is what the numbers are going to be, and then all of a sudden, they try to say you the extra stuff. I'm sitting back reclining because I already know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say no to all. I don't need none of that. We don't need it. Me and my wife believe we're not going to have it. Matter of fact, one time we did it, and we went back to take it all off because we thought about it. We don't need all that extra. If you already have warranty on your car, it's already there. If you trust God, the warranty is already there. It's given. It's going to happen if you put your trust and faith. So when we was going through it, just kind of tie things in, was that as we got there, then all of a sudden we sit down, and the price is right, still the same. Then the interest was like, uh-oh. She said the interest rate. I said, oh, what? That ain't what we'd agreed. Call Michaela back in here. That was a salesperson. Little short, little young lady. We wanted to help her out. She was a real sweet girl, and me and my wife, we thought she was real nice. And I said, oh, no. Call Michaela back in here. Came back in there. They said, well, I said, well, I started leaning back on the chair, and I was like, I know how my reaction would have been. I said, well, let me get that check back, because I'd done it before. And my daughter seen it. I know what she was probably thinking, oh, my God, I know my dad, what he going to do in a few minutes. He going to say, give me that check back. But I had to sit there and be obedient, because I'm going to tell you what happened. Before that, I had asked the fleet manager to come to church. Like, how's it going to look? I'm like a fool at the dealer. I have to continue to listen to what God's telling me. And when he told me to get up and walk outside, matter of fact, my wife didn't even see the text. I said, text me when things get better. Because I walked outside. Text me when stuff gets better. Text me with this interest rate thing we talking about, when it gets better. Well, they made things right. Because she didn't even text me when I got back. I was surprised that even my wife can talk. She even told me, I got this. And she did have it. Because sometimes God's telling you, let somebody else take care of it. See, I knew when I took my wife, I said, yeah, I'm going to bring somebody with me. Because we deal with them too. So she knew how to deal with them. But my wife says the right stuff. Me, I just look, and then I don't have a poker face. I'm sitting there, I got my hands behind my back, reclining back in the chair, and I just had to say, look, when you say something, you better stick with it. So sometimes we got to watch even what we pray for. We got to watch what we pray for. I think there's a story in the Bible where it talks about, I think it was in Judges, if I remember right, one of the, God they had asked God to give them let them win this battle, and he vowed that he would give the first person who came out of his house, that he would, give them to God. But sometimes we got to watch that, because see, when he was coming back from battle, the first person that came out was his daughter. That was the sacrifice. See, but he didn't think about it. So sometimes we got to think about what we ask for. When he's speaking to us, you still got to be careful what you ask for. You can't just keep rumming your mouth thinking that's what you want. I mean, I've done that before. I'll be the first to tell you. I mean, I want to hire this person because he kind of looked like me. Boy, I didn't know he was going to act crazy. And sometimes you got to watch that. Sometimes you think that somebody comes in there and you think that's what you're going to get. That's not what you're getting. That's not what you're going to get. So, again, and, as I was talking about it, Abraham answered when God called, and he was listening. He was listening, ready to hear what God had to say. So, then in Genesis 31:11, an angel of God came and spoke to Jacob in a dream, and he said, Jacob, Jacob. Jacob said, here I am. See, he can listen. He's hearing what God's got to say. He knows God has something for him. When he says, here I am, he's prepared to receive what God's got in store for him. See, what Jacob realized was, Jacob was spending all his time where he was living with his father-in-law. And then the angel of God said he knew that his father-in-law was taking advantage of him. He was taking advantage of him right there in front of Jacob. Jacob knew he was taking advantage, but he didn't know how to get up and leave. And the angel said, it's time for you to go. Because your father-in-law taking over. He's taking advantage of you. First he told you can stay here 10 years, you can have his first daughter. Then he said, well, he gave you the other daughter. Then he did another 10 years, and now you having to still work for him. And then you start, then you said, well, he thinks that you taking his lamb, his sheep. And then he said, well, let's do this. I'll do all this, but I'll take the ones that have a certain appearance. And he still was being questioned. See, it was time for him to go. It was time for Abraham. Sometimes some of us are stuck in a place and we not ready to go. And God's telling you got to go. That situation you in, it's time for you to go. You're not in the right situation. You're not in the right relationship. You're not in something that's not right there. It's time for you to get up your bags and go. And sometimes you got to leave what you got there and you got to go. Amen. You don't have to take that stuff with you. You can leave it right there. It's just material things anyways. And sometimes we stick around, and the person you might be with is just abusing you. Verbally, mentally, physically. And it's not just men doing it. Women do the same thing. So don't just think that just men are the ones that do stuff like that. Women do the same thing. They can be manipulative too. And I've seen it. I witnessed that kind of stuff. So, you got to listen to when he's speaking. He's speaking for a reason. He wants you to hear what he has to say. He's got something in store for you that's better if you allow him, if you listen and be obedient to what he has to say. And we got to remember that God is always speaking, and we got to be prepared to just receive the word. He speaks every Sunday here. I can tell you right when I'm around, I feel it. I feel the Spirit every time the praise and worship team start. I can feel the Spirit of God, just like, man, God is in here. God is in there. And then when Pastor comes in and speaks, I know that's all God. Because there's some things that I tell Pastor, and Pastor talk about it. And sometimes I don't even tell him. I say, I just read that. See, when you read in the Word, when you get in the Word, it makes sense to you what he's saying. If you're not reading the Word on your own, what he says up here on Sunday, it probably makes no sense to you. You're probably thinking he's probably speaking a different language. He's not speaking a language. It's plain in English because I'm Spanish and I can understand English. So I know this what it's saying. So I know what it's saying. It's plain English. And sometimes we just got to sit there and let God just do his thing. See, he did the same thing again in Genesis 46. God spoke to Israel. See, when you say Israel, I'm not talking about Israel, the country. I'm talking about Israel, Jacob. See, he renamed him. He gave him a whole different name. He spoke to Israel again because he knew he had already gave him a different name. He had tussled with God, and God gave him a name because he was obedient. See, he didn't want to let go until he was blessed. So he named him Israel. And there's another name he gave. But again, if we don't pick up the word, we don't understand what he's talking about. And it makes sense. It starts making all sense if you just take the time to read what he has to say. He's speaking to every single one of us. I promise you that. So when he says in verse 46, when he said, God spoke to Israel in a vision at night, he said, Jacob. And Jacob said, here I am. Man, people, when you know somebody, is when you call your kids, it's like, I can sit here, I can tell when one of my kids, my grandkids, I know which one is mine. They got a little thing on social media now where the grandparents sit like this, they turn their back, and all different grandkids. Some of them got 15, 20. I'm almost in that same group. I got 11. I don't know I can remember all their names, but I know when they all come up there, they start saying, they say a little something, and the grandmother or the grandfather got to figure out who it is. See, when you know your kids, you know when they crying, when they want, oh, that's mine. When they act up, that's mine. When they doing good, that's mine. See, I knew my kids. If you told me Constantly was acting up, I said, you tell me something else. Now, I can tell you he ain't doing his homework, but he ain't acting up. If you tell me Janae is talking in class, yeah, I can tell you right about that. But you can't tell me she ain't turning no assignments in because I know my kids. See, God knows all of us the same way. He knows before you even open your mouth. He knows before you even going to say what you're going to say. Before you even ask for it, he already knows. Now, his ways ain't our ways. Now, he's different now, completely different. He don't need all this sometimes, but he just needs to hear from us that we have to acknowledge and we have to listen to what he has to say. So when he called Jacob, and Jacob said the second time in 46, I'm here. Here I am. And when he said that, he said, look, we getting ready to go to Egypt. I'm going to give you what I promised to your dads. I told you was going to have this land. This land that you're going to be, where you at now, it's going to be yours. I'm going to take you deep into Egypt. Because, see, there was a famine going on. So God promised what he said he was do. He promised what he told Abraham, Isaac, and he fulfilled it when he told Jacob. So Jacob understood when God was speaking to him. See, now Abraham understood. Jacob understood. So I know a lot of us guys are speaking to us right now. But we got to decide, are we going to move? Or are we going to just sit there and not move? Are we going to get up and go to that and fill out that application that we've been talking about filling out? Are we going to go up and do and fill out for this higher position? Are we going to move to this other state? You know, I don't want nobody to move. Don't move now. But I mean, you see what I'm getting at? Is something you have to be obedient to God. You have to listen what because He's speaking all the time. I know some of us think that He ain't speaking, but again, I won't say this. Don't get your feelings hurt. You just ain't listening, because He is speaking. I promise you, He's speaking. Because He spoke to me several times. I just wasn't listening. I was hard-headed. See, none of us want to acknowledge that, but sometimes we get to the point where sometimes we hear God. I'm gonna still go out. I'm gonna go do this thing, but He telling you to stay home. He tell you, don't get in that car. There's going to be something going on. You don't need to be out there. So God is speaking all the time. So just remember that. He's always looking out for the best interests of all of us. So, and then as I was reading, it talks about Moses. In Exodus 3:4, God calls Moses from within the bush. Man, that's a bad dude. From within the bush, he said, Moses. Moses got stirred like, and the first thing he said, here I am. See, we got to start thinking about where are we at with Christ. Are we here with Him? Or are we somewhere else? See, we can't be of the world. We can't be part of the world. Because Satan is in the world. He's everywhere in the world. And I've read that too. He's in the world. He's in the air. That's Satan. That's all Satan. And we can't be part of that. We can't get caught up in that. We just can't get caught up in stuff like that. So when he called him, he says, here I am. See, sometimes what I was talking about earlier, there's some people that are going through a transition phase. They're going into the wilderness right now. They're barely getting ready to go into it. See, but God's going to lead you out of it if you trust Him. If you put your trust and faith in Him. See, when He sent Moses, He heard us. Remember I said He listens? By listening, God hears all of our cries, our groans, our moaning. He hears all that. But when it's time to pony up, what are we going to do? When He comes, okay, I've been hearing you. Now let's see, okay, I don't found you a place. I don't find you this new apartment. I don't find you this new job. I don't find you this car that's not new, but I find you another car. It still rolls. What you going to do? What you going to do? You going to move on it? Because He's got it for you. He's just waiting for you to make a move. Because He's already set the path for you. He done cleared everything for you so you don't have to struggle. You don't have to struggle. So God used Moses, and when Moses answered, he says, I am here. Here I am. Moses did what he was asked to do. Now, I'm not going to say he went free-willing the first time, because a lot of us don't do that. Sometimes we go through, we have to sit there and wait, and we got like, well, I don't know if I want to move. I don't know if I want this, but this ain't a good spot for you. See, Moses was the same way. He did it about 5 times. He made excuses. He took up for somebody. I don't want to do that. I can't even speak. How are they going to listen to me? I don't did this. I don't kill somebody. How are they going to come listen to me? If he can use Moses the way he used Moses, he could have said, you know what, I'm done with you, but he never gave up. There's people that give up on you on the first time I'm done with you. Not God. No, sir. No, ma'am. God don't give up. God knows what's best for you if you put your trust and faith in him. Every time that you trust God, God will fulfill what you ask for as long as you put your faith in him. He will do good in your life when you trust him. So then I'm reading as I'm going along in 1 Samuel 3 and 4. And Samuel, he lived with Eli. Him and Eli had they were roommates for a while. And God called Samuel a few times. Samuel. Samuel got up. Here I am. But then what? He thought it was Eli calling him. See, he didn't know God yet. Not like that. See, some of us ain't figured that out yet. We still trying to figure that out. Who's calling me? Who's telling me to go? Is it God, or is it just my conscience telling me to move on? That's God speaking to you sometimes if you open your heart and listen to what he has to say. See, because God had to call Eli a few times too. He called like 3 or 4 times. Eli. He called Samuel. He called him like a few times. He said, Samuel. He said, here I ain't get up again. And then he go ask Eli, is that you? Call him out. He said, I ain't call your name. Go back to sleep. That's God speaking. Sometimes we shut the door on him when he's trying to provide us a way out. He's opening up avenues for all of us. He's providing so many things for us that sometimes we just neglect or we just don't want to hear what he's had for us. He has so much in store for us. He's a God of grace, God of comfort, a God of healing. We've all gone through that. As I started this evening, we talked about how Job went to what he went to. See, the best advice Job got from his friends is when they stay silent for 7 days and say a word. Sometimes, if we can just don't let some of the people that's supposed to be encourage you discourage you. Because sometimes even those that are closer, these are his friends that were telling him, at first they did good, but then when they want to have their own opinion and they think they figured it out, they think they figured God out, that you going through this because of this because if you've done in your past, you getting what you get. That's how the kind of stuff that he had to deal with. And sometimes even our friends, sometimes even our family members do the same thing to us. But we're not hearing the one we need to be hearing. We need to be hearing from the one, the high above Lord we serve. He hears everything. I know sometimes when we talk about, even when in 1 Samuel, when they wanted a king, they didn't realize they already had a king. Sometimes we think we want certain things, and sometimes even what we have at home is good for us. So I don't want to just talk about, we have to get on sometimes what we have at home. God has you there for a reason, okay? He wants you to work things out. He wants you to figure some of the things out. If all is not about the other person, sometimes we got to look at ourselves and look at and reflect on what we can do to change our ways. Because sometimes it's not about changing them. It's about praying for them. It's also about praying for them to get closer to Christ, that they will see God, that they will have a relationship with God. Because we can't sit there and say, God, change that person. Because God's saying, what about you? Change you first, and you'll see a lot of things come your way. You'll be blessed abundantly with more than your relationship will grow, your family will grow, your children will start listening to you. All that stuff will come back in play. All that stuff will just come back. It will just resurface. I know because I'm speaking from it. Okay, I remember when our youngest daughter, I was so, quick for her to get on her own, but then I started thinking, I said, man, is she ready? And then I had to sit and, think about myself. I had to think about her safety, making sure she's okay. But then again, I started thinking, my wife and I, we speak to our kids and we don't sugarcoat nothing with them. We try to educate them. We try to help them out, whichever way we can. I mean, we want them to stand on their own 2 feet. But the one thing that I know that I do, my wife always talks about she's got a plan A, B, and C, and D. Usually I only got a plan A. I got one plan, but she got all kind of plans. But me, I want to sit there and make sure that my kids, the only plan A I'm going to tell them is about Christ. I want them to have a relationship with God. I can't force it on them. But I always tell them, you got to answer to one and one only, not me. I'm your daddy down here, but you got to answer to the Father. Okay? Because the Father is the one we all got to go before. We all got to bow down to him. We all got to answer to him. Your mom ain't going to be there. Your auntie ain't going to be there. Your wife ain't going to be there. It's going to be just you and God, one-on-one, mano y mano. That's what it's going to be like. So sometimes, again, we have to be obedient and listen to what he's saying because he is speaking. Every Sunday that I know he's speaking. I hear it. The more I read, the more, I can go back and read some of what I read. It just, without God in our life, is really meaningless. No matter how much we work, no matter how much we have, no matter, he talks about, you can have everything you want, and it's meaningless. It's in vain if you don't have God in your life. It's really in vain. Because God is the one that furnishes everything. You can have all the wine, you can have all the houses. Look, he gave Solomon everything. He had wisdom, but Solomon didn't even ask for money, but he still gave him that. He gave him riches. He gave him a bunch of wives, and he gave him all the stuff he had and plus more. And that still didn't satisfy him because without Christ, that's not possible. Nothing is possible because in the end, whatever you've done while you was here is meaningless because at the end, guess what? It's nothing that God ain't seen. If you don't have a relationship with him, everything will be meaningless. If you don't sit here and put him first in your life, if you don't start, submitting yourself to him and worshiping him and serving him, because we're not supposed to serve us. We're supposed to serve other people. Okay? I think Pastor talked about this the other day about we can't be putting ourselves when the young man that was out in the front door, usually Pastor would go get the guy some chips and a drink and feed him. But that's what we do here. We can't just sit there and act like we don't see it. We see things that are happening, and we turning the other way, so we don't want to see it. I just talked to my wife the other day that I feel like there's the same man that's on Parker that's over there. I'm going to tell you what mall was at, but what's the mall we go to, babe? No Park Mall. The same man saying, I feel like it's the same guy, but guess what? It's not the same person. It might be just a different angel. Never know. And we just walking by like we don't see him. It ain't for me to figure out what he's doing. That's not my problem. It's not me to figure. God just wants me to do what's right. He wanted me to feed. I think the other day we was at the fish shack, and this man was there, and I can tell you probably the last cent. I got to give you a receipt, sister. And then I fed the brother. I don't care if he had $20, but that might have been his $20 for tomorrow, for the whole week. And if we sit there and we just act like we're not hearing God, God is talking. He's speaking to each and every one of us. So we got to continue just put our trust and trust what he's saying. When he's speaking, we have to be obedient. We have to be submissive to him. We have to do all the things that he's done for us. It's what it said. Pastor was talking about the trash. Well, someone took our trash out. Someone took our trash out before we even came in here. Because we had a lot of trash. It's better to give than to receive. That means you're in that position where you're not struggling. That means God has blessed you where you can help somebody. So it's nice when you can do that for someone that's in need, that's struggling, that might be going through a situation where you don't know if he lost his job or she lost his job or they lost, they have grieving over something that impacted them so hard. You just never know. So we got to, again, just listen to what the Holy Spirit is saying and touching your heart. Amen?